or hearing the hard drive spool up.
Yeah. 10 gig or 100 was it megabyte hard drive? Ooh. State of the art.
Hey, now it looks like we got it running. Okay, there we are. Only took 2 times. We are live on YouTube, which means I get to say, hi, Mom. And we'll introduce ourselves one more time because that way the recording has it. My name is TJ Zill. I call myself a professional problem solver, which again, does not mean I know everything. I just have a unique way of asking questions. I'm very blessed to have a very wide and deep and tribe to pick brains from. Lots of people I can call on. And I also have access to the internet. And I know how to use it, and I'm not afraid to use it. Speaking of internet, I do have a website, theTSWB.com, thetallskinnywhiteboy.com. And I'm going to have to upgrade it because there's a whole lot of stuff that's missing on there. So if anybody has any recommendations for what I should have included on there, I've had a few people that I've given my card to and they go, I didn't find this on there. I'm like, oh, because it's not on there. Yeah, but if I put everything that I can do on the web page, it'll either be 72 pages you got to scroll through, or it's just going to sound like I'm trying to compensate for something. So there's also that. I do offer a free 30-minute consultation, though, if you want to reach out and see if there's something I can help you with. And you've got 30 minutes of my time to chit-chat, whatever you want to do. I do help people with depression, anxiety, phobias, PTSD. Relationships have been coming in still. Also offer corporate coaching, and I work with athletes all the way from beginner up to the pro level. What else? For those of you that are new, this year I started something new. I've got a whole bunch of ties, so I've decided I'm going to do tie of the week. So this week's tie came direct from our trip to China, from a silk factory that we got to tour. And so if anybody speaks Mandarin or reads Mandarin Chinese, you can tell me what this says. It probably says, stupid American will buy this overpriced tie that is not made of silk. That was pretty negative, wasn't it? Actually, it says, the wearer of this tie is great at manifesting and helping others. That's why I picked it. Prove me wrong.
Much better.
What else? We got hour 2 is for those of you that are new to the Triple T Planet. First hour, I've got some topics that I've picked, that I've downloaded, that I get to share. We're going to see if we can get through 3 of them this week. We haven't pulled it off the last couple of weeks, and that's fine because we've had some amazing discussions. And then the second hour is open mic, open platform, questions. Anybody that's on the call gets to ask questions, bring up topics. And so if you're watching on YouTube or watching the recording, join us. It's free. And you get to ask whatever questions you want. You don't even have to know how to spell NLP. That's right. That's how easy the access is. I also like to start it off with anybody got anything cool they'd like to share from the last time we were together 7 days ago? Holly's got her hand up.
I'll just jump in. I can't possibly cover everything that all the downloads I got, but for anyone who's considering doing the 30-minute consultation with TJ, like, just do it. I got to talk with TJ before this call started, and just the number of downloads, the amount of healing I'm getting, even just from that one session and every other session I've ever done with him. Just want to do a plug. Totally worth it a million times over.
Thank you, dear.
Agreed.
And we adore you as well, just so you know.
Thanks.
Well, anybody want to follow that up? I'm feeling all humbled and stuff now.
I second that wholeheartedly. I could not agree more.
All right, welcome to the Love TJ Hour, and appreciate everybody showing up. While we're at it, while we're on the topic, if you also kind of like me, please go to my actual YouTube channel, TSWB Helps, and click the subscribe, ring the bell, leave a comment. In fact, there's a lot of videos that have no comments that are feeling very lonely and left out. So if you could just pop in and drop in some comments and comment on other people's comments. And I love those ghost kiss come in. Mark, you're going to have to go back and watch the replay on that one, because all we see is background. You're going, and then out of nowhere, this face comes, smooch, boom, gone. That's awesome. Everybody needs
I ambush her when she walks by.
Everybody needs a good ghost kiss every now and then, just sneaking in. Anybody else got anything they want to share from the last 7 days before we dive into this week's topics, see if we can get through? Okay. Topics of the week are priority you, working for compliments, and dumpster ROI. Starting out, priority you. I think I'll do this as a quick little roundabout. How many priorities do you think it takes before you really don't have any priorities? Any guesses? Somebody's been on Planet TJ for a while. 3. The interesting part about that is we have to remember those are exterior daily priorities. What's the one that a lot of people forget to put on their priority list? Themselves. Mental health, physical health, all the above. And a lot of those people end up coming to me. And ironically and kind of sadly, the ones that come to me for relationships, how long do you think it's been since they've been even in the top 100 on their priority list? Quite a while. And they forget a lot of them unfortunately never learned the concept of it's not being selfish to put yourself first. Airplane rules. When the oxygen mask falls, who gets it first? My friends, 'cause they mean so much to me. No. My chillins, 'cause they're my world. No. My special some, because my world revolves around. No. You. The oxygen mask has to go on you first. Because if you check out, you are now not only no longer a help to other people, you're most likely a burden. Because if they were close enough that you cared that much about them, hopefully there's a chance they've got some feelings for you as well. And so when you don't take care of yourself first, and all of a sudden you go down, it affects all those around you. Yeah, but I don't want to be selfish with my time and my energies and so I pour everything out of my cup so that I can feel that I'm righteous with the empty cup. And you got nothing to give anybody else. And some of the coolest things that I've had for responses and ahas and epiphanies from my clients, especially those in the relationship department, the more they fell in love with themselves, the higher the grade of people that surrounded them. The low-level people didn't want to hang around somebody who had love and respect for themselves. It was almost like a self-weeding situation. And while they were out and about, amazing people came out of the woodwork that were just automatically attracted to them. Now here's where the ironic part is. Some of them were so starved for some decent attention. What happened when somebody new showed up? Oh, they're the best, they're the perfect, they are, I'll be like, ABT, ABT, ABT. What do we know? What does ABT stand for? Always be testing. When? Well, I mean, you didn't mean like always. I mean, got to give them the benefit of the doubt. I mean, just because, 27 red flags popped up, at least it wasn't like 50. No, always be testing. They don't start at 100. They start at 50. They can split the difference. You are the priority. You are the 100. Deck of cards. How many kings in each card or each deck? 4. But how many 2s are in each deck? 4. And yet, those that are the loneliest will do their best to help a 5 become a king. And then be heartbroken when they're still a 5. But if they would only change, they could be a king. Well, you're right. they could for somebody else, but not for you. And I should have pulled this up first. Excuse me while I whip this out. It's a quote. There it is. Here's a quote by Friedrich Nietzsche. The lonely one offers their hand too quickly to whomever they encounter. I'll read it again. The lonely one offers their hand too quickly to whomever they encounter. And here's another one. Your task is not to seek for love, but merely to seek and find all the barriers within yourself that have built against it. Even those that are currently in relationships. So I'll read it again. That quote was from Rumi, R-U-M-I. Back in Minnesota, it'd be rummy, but that's a card game. So again, your task is not to seek for love, but merely to seek and find all the barriers within yourself that you have built against it, which is one of the main things that I help my clients with, along with teaching them communication skills, trifecta, things of that nature. Because even if we take down the barriers, but you are terrible at communicating, there's still going to be a little bit of a challenge. And this one I brought up before. Are you cheating on your future self with your ex? Are you still entertaining and hanging out with your old self because they're familiar and comfortable? You have to put yourself as the priority to become who you were meant to be. Fall in love with your future self and become that person. Stop dating your ex, aka your old self, just because they are familiar and comfortable. And one more for this one. How would your perception of yourself change if you could view it through the eyes of those people that love you? And that's a challenge with a number of my clients as well, especially the relationship clients. So I'm going to read it again. How would your perception of yourself change if you could view it through the eyes of those people that love you? Yeah, but you don't understand. They're not around when I fart. Then fart when you're around them. They're still going to love you. Just don't eat as much broccoli as you used to. Just checking to see if you guys were listening. You have to get comfortable with you. You have to be able to fall in love with who you are. Because when you do that, when you become that authentic, the energy that you put out will be what draws in your person and your tribe. And I can tell when my relationship clients are getting it, because all of a sudden they're continuously meeting new and even more amazing people. And the people that were absolutely awesome, amazing back then have had the time to show who they are. And even though they're better than what they were hanging out with when we started, they were the best so far. And then they met the next one, and oh, they're perfect, everything, oh, but they're still the best so far. And I've learned to inoculate my clients, letting them know that for a while, it's going to be a little bit of work. Because as you progress, as you climb that ladder, as you advance your skill sets, as you become better and better, you're going to go through more people. You're starting down here. You were hanging around with 4s and 5s. And then you brought yourself up, and all of a sudden you started hanging out with 7s and 8s. And they were the best so far. Oh my God, they're so cool. But you kept working on yourself, and now you're starting to attract 9s and 10s. 4s and 5s don't even really want to hang out with you a whole lot anymore because the frequency difference is too much for them. They'll try to pull you back down. Believe me, they will do everything they can, especially the narcissists and the gaslighters will let you know it's your fault that we don't talk anymore. You're just too da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And you have to continue to make yourself the priority. Because if you don't, all that work, and it may temporarily bring you down. They may be able to convince you for a while that you don't deserve to be your best version. Because they miss having you to kick around. I mean, they miss having your energy around for them to feed off. I mean, all of the above. The energy vampires, the people who also, when you've made that amount of progress, puts a mirror in front of them. And they have to go, why am I still here? Why am I still doing this? Why is so-and-so so much better? Why are they so happy? They don't even want to gossip anymore. What the what? I try to drag them down into my miserable and my misery and my, oh my God, did you hear what Sally did? And they just go, oh, yeah. Well, send them love and happiness, but I think I'm going to get going. What, you don't want to hang down here in the trenches and be miserable like we used to do all the time? No. Because you are the priority. So, anybody have any ahas, epiphanies, questions about what we've talked about so far? Mark.
I'll go first if I may. To quote Dr. David Snyder and add a little bit to what he said, you attract who you are and who you're becoming. And like you said, you're the priority, but you're also the prize. And if you put, agree with everything you said. Sometimes you have to see how bright a light you are becoming. You have to take it into a dark place sometimes and shine forth. And sometimes people, like I said, this squirrel came up. People can sometimes be holding everybody up, and like in the family, and they get the family portrait, but they're not in it because they're the frame, and they forget to put themselves into the family portrait. So
Exactly.
but you are the prize. You are the priority.
And I'm glad you brought up the family part. I've seen many families that used to be very tight knit, and reunions, especially around where I grew up. You'd always hear, "Oh, we had the family reunion this year, da da da. We all got together down at the lake, or and sadly, you'll figure out who put that all together. Because as soon as they're gone, all of those activities kind of just dissipate. And I'm glad, and Lenora, I like what you put in the comment there, is learning to be your own best friend. And part of that, a big part of that, is how would you talk to your best friend, but how would you let other people talk to you to your face? Now, it's one thing if they're talking behind your back, because they're human, and that is just part of life. And you can sit there and worry about, I'm sure they're saying something about me. Well, I hate to break it to you, but they probably are thinking about you a whole lot less than you really think they are. And if they are, next. And if you're going to give them something to talk about because they need something to talk about, give them lots of good stuff to talk about. Let them talk about how different you are, how more positive you become, how you're doing another one of those classes where you're just kind of poured into yourself and become a better person, like, oh my gosh. Or talking about how you've not been hanging around that part of town much anymore. You seem to have those other friends that are always talking happy and good for you and da da da. And it's okay to be the black sheep or the weird one. I know. I've been doing it for quite a while, right, Mom? The best part is, the more you work on yourself and stop worrying about what other people are going to think, because they're not thinking about you anyway, you're going to start attracting the ones you're supposed to be with. And real quick, Lenora, not all queens are. Some of them are raucous and rowdy, and some of them are weird, and some of them are nerdy. But everybody knows they're a queen. And as long as they are the queen, they get to be whoever they want to be. Lenora.
I find that I think I had heard you say earlier, be your own best friend, or that's at least the piece that I had captured when I was off camera. And I find that so interesting. And I find it very, very interesting. The more that I spend time taking care of the voices in my head and taking care of the things that are coming up, the better things get. And that being said, I was walking today and I was having a conversation with a younger self that was just deciding to be talkative. And the way that I was talking to that younger part was like a best friend or somebody that was encouraging. And I find that I've really just transformed into that voice with almost all of my parts as often as I can, unless I need to call in bigger guns, because apparently my voice won't do the trick sometimes. But in talking to that voice, I was able to have them think in a much more creative way. And they were dragging their feet about something. And I had said something along the lines of, well, like, when did you become so cynical? Like, what if this got really good? What else could you imagine? What else could it be like? And basically having this conversation and having this imagination take off as to what else this scenario could turn into. So it was just really interesting. And I find it very unique as to how I was having that conversation before, and then how it often happens in Triple T, that these conversations just are like, oh, that's exactly what I needed to hear. So just thought I'd share that.
Thank you. And real quick, Holly, before this pops, there was one other quote that I forgot that I wanted to read. And I'm just going to pretend this guy is French. His Jean-Paul Sartre, Sartre. And the quote is, if you're lonely when you're alone, you're in bad company. If you're lonely when you're alone, you're in bad company. Keep track of that, because you're the person that you get to be with your entire life, and longer sometimes. So be kind to yourself, but be the friend that you have always wanted. Holly.
Gosh, I have so many things going through my mind right now. First of all, one quote real fast that Daniel Almond says a lot. He says, you spend your teens and your 20s worrying about what everybody else thinks about you. You spend your 30s and 40s not caring as much about what other people think about you, being your own person. You spend your 50s and 60s realizing everybody was so caught up in what everybody else was thinking about them. They never were thinking about you in the first place.
Yes.
Just kind of a side one. So a couple other things. So one is I was thinking about the idea of boundaries, and we were talking about taking care of yourself, putting the oxygen mask on yourself. And in the book, the boundaries, when to say yes, how to say no. One of the things that kind of stuck with me, and I might be remembering it a little bit different than it is in the book because it's been a while since I've read it. But they kind of said, you might really enjoy making sure everyone in your life around you has to rely on you. But if you actually care about them, maybe you should take a step back and realize as you're burning yourself out, at some point, you're probably going to end up in the ER or maybe even worse. So are you giving any thought to whether or not what they're going to do when you're not able to help them anymore?
Yes.
And that just really stuck with me. Like, it hit hard of, what if I wasn't here? What are they like? Do I disrespect these people so much that I don't think they can survive without me too? And am I enabling them and making them so dependent on me they can't function in life? And then the other thing that kind of was in my mind, I've been thinking about this a lot lately, and it just kind of came up again. So talking about the person who's, maybe newer to dating and they've never had anybody before. And so they get their 5 and they're so excited with the 5 or whatever. One of the things that kind of keeps coming into my head is the person who is so desperate that they're willing to settle for their 5. And once again, the idea that this 5 might be somebody else's king, or, like, that's not necessarily saying they're a bad person or anything. But when you are in a mindset that you are so desperate you're willing to settle for your 5, if your king comes along, or your queen or whatever, are you going to be so focused on the fact that you're happy that they're above 4 that you are not even going to be able to truly appreciate them as your king or your queen? Because you're just so focused on, I'm with somebody who's over 4. And they're like, but I'm a king, I'm a queen. Like, look how much more this relationship could be, how much more you could value this relationship, how happy and excited you should be. And it's like, no, I'm just going to focus on the fact that all I cared about was getting something over a 5. You're over a 5. I'm not even going to pay any more attention to you than that. So just something that's kind of been in my head.
I appreciate you sharing that. Mike.
Hey, I apologize for getting on here a little late. I'm picking up, I think, what everyone's laying down, and I just want to throw a little input with Lenora being the inner voice lady. And we've got to be kind with ourselves. I think you're 100% right, because life is tough. We deal with a lot of stuff going on all the flipping time, and we've got to, when you're talking to your different younger selves or different voices in your head, be loving, because you get more stuff with love than you do with anything else.
Awesome. Exactly.
And I couldn't raise my hand, so I was like, I can't find the button.
Yeah.
Where is it? So I'm
You're
like,
not supposed to be doing that driving anyway, but we're so happy you're here, brother. I appreciate everything that you do in my life. So
well, hopefully we change the world together. It'll be a good thing.
rock and roll.
All right, thank you.
Yep. And I'm glad that he brought that up, especially about the past, and how ironic that he was driving a car, which allows me to bring up again, why is it in vehicles that the rear view mirror is this big and the windshield is this big? Because you're supposed to be going forward, not focused on what happened back there. Back there, the only reason you need that rear view mirror is to figure out where you got the lessons from. Not to think about all the ways you could go back and miss the pothole. Pothole happened. If you could have missed it, you would have. Doesn't matter what was going on at the time. You hit the pothole. Did the car implode? Did anybody die? Did you die? No, you didn't die because you're still driving. Sometimes I almost want to tell some of my clients to just rip the damn rear view mirror off and chuck it out the window. But we can't do that either, because the past is what made you who you are today. All the good, all the bad, all the comments, all the tears, all the happies, all the giggles, all the parties, all the lost loves, all the good loves, all of that made you who you are today. Take a good look at the inventory that you have. Leave the schmutz, grab the lessons, look forward, and figure out ways to improve. And don't try and tell yourself, I am never going to hit a pothole ever again. You will. You will. unless you put the damn car in park and risk somebody rear-ending you because you're sitting parked on the highway of life, Lenora.
So with this whole pothole, I'm trying to think back to, I know you and Mark had said a couple of weeks ago that you guys like challenges. You get excited by challenges. I just saw Mark's shirt and it says, "I never argue." What's the rest? I just explained why I'm right. Very clever. I like that one. So when it comes to potholes, could you and I was thinking, I think I mentioned this the other week. I was thinking about how you can make fear your friend, how you can acknowledge it but still put a spin on it that feels really good. So even when you're talking about potholes, how can you look at potholes that either A, you can swerve around or you can navigate more effectively, and perhaps in the past it blew out your tire, but this time you know more now, so you can navigate, you can drive differently, and perhaps knowing that you'll eventually hit a pothole, maybe your tires are more resilient, you've upgraded your tires maybe, or I'm trying to think of some way where you're, it's not that you're worried about the pothole, you're just like, I'll hit it, but I'll be okay.
You're on the right track.
Okay.
And yes, if we're going to use the car as the metaphor, that's where you get to improve the suspension, improve the tires, improve the brakes, improve the headlights, improve the seats, juice up the motor, all the above. It's all that self-improvement stuff. And learn to know what the road looks like ahead as much as possible. If you can avoid the pothole, avoid it. If you can't, you do the best you can. One of the funny little things when my wife was riding in the car with me, she's in the passenger seat, safely riding with me, focused on her phone, and all of a sudden, whoop, whoop, and she's like, "What was that?" And I said, "That was the 2 potholes you didn't feel." And she's like, "What?" I said, "That was the 2 potholes that you didn't feel." Because I learned a long time ago as when I was young working in a mechanic shop, every little bump that you put your car through costs you money. It may be a penny, it may be $100, it may be $200, but every bump, every pothole, everything like that costs you money. Mike.
Yes, sir. Thank you again.
Yep.
Very much. This ties in what we talked about last week and the week before, about the martial arts student. You know, that my best student chose to take a different way. If you want to hit the potholes and you want to strengthen your vehicle, I mean, they make trophy trucks out there that you wouldn't even feel any potholes, but it's lots of money. It's lots of work to make those things.
Yep.
A real simple way. I worked with a shaman years ago, and she probably did one of the best things that bettered my life. We're all here to learn lessons. We're a spiritual being living physical, living in an alien environment.
Yep.
Agreed? Yes?
Yep.
And we've got to learn our lessons. And some people, we need to learn our lessons very hard. But if you ask for guidance and you ask your angels or spirits or whatever your connection is, the universe, please bring me my lessons gently. And the potholes are a whole lot softer.
Yes, exactly.
Every morning I wake up, I do my meditation, I ground myself, I connect, and I ask for my lessons to be brought to me gently. And it is so much better.
And sometimes it may not be a pothole, it might be a speed bump.
Might
Just
be a speed bump, and it might be just a bug hitting your windshield.
yes, exactly. Mark.
So you find what you look for. Thanks.
Yep.
Yeah, my sister reminded me of a mom yesterday, and she said, "Sometimes you're the bug, sometimes you're the windshield."
Yep.
And I only make one guarantee to my clients. It's the only guarantee I make in my office. I said, "Good things and less than positive things are going to happen to you, and there's nothing you can do about the good things, and there's nothing you can do about the less than positive things, except turn them into life lessons."
Exactly. Yes, you don't have to bring the schmutz with you. Grab the lesson, move forward. And here we are again, 3/4 of the first hour through, and we're 1/3 through the topics. But a lot of good things have been brought up, and hopefully people are getting what they need out of this. Anybody got any other questions, ahas, epiphanies before we try and squeak in 2 more topics? No? Then next topic, working for compliments. And is there anybody out here that can't stand compliments? Hello? No? Yes? No? You'd be amazed at some people that have a hard time accepting compliments, even though they desperately want to hear them. And sadly, the current generation is getting even more reliant on hearing compliments because they have a hard time with, I don't want to say put downs, with, we're just going to call it realistic judgment. It's one thing if you're doing a job, you're knocking it out of the park, and nobody notices, and that can kind of suck after a while if nobody says anything about it. It's nice to know that you're appreciated, that you're accomplishing something, that you're getting things done. There are people that will do more for compliments than they will for money. I'll repeat that again. There are people that will do more for compliments than they will for money. But there are also people that will take one negative comment and allow it to erase 40 positive comments.
Don't they say for each negative one you have to do 6 positive? 6?
That, I believe that's what I've been told.
Okay.
But I think from the stuff that I've seen and some of the younger generation people that I've worked with and talked to, especially with social media, fake lives out there, it's getting to where that ratio is getting even higher.
I would believe that.
They've been informed that, it's bullying, it's intentional, it's meant to hurt you, and so it's a sad, kind of a dangerous little place for them now. Words are hurting people more than they ever have.
I would agree with that.
there's
Do
a
you think?
lot.
Oh, sorry.
I was going to say my generation, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt. Don't be a sissy. Da, da, da. So what if he said da da da? He's a schmuck. Da 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 da. And now, I'm sorry, but you didn't get the all the work done that you were supposed to. Are you saying that I suck? Well, Bob got all his work done, and you're about 3/4 done, and the day is over. Yeah, Lenora.
Do you think it's because words are hurting people more now, more so, but not necessarily in person because people are reading it in the tone that they have in their head?
That's one. I
Well,
also,
that and I think the choice of words.
choice of words, a lot of people don't understand that it's not the words that were said, it's the meaning that you attach to them and the interpretation, because nothing means anything until you give it a label. But I think that I'm seeing compliments, true, heartfelt, realistic compliments seem to be becoming less and less. Michael. Next
There it
we'll
is.
talk about.
There we go. There we go. So really quick, I think it ties to communication skills. And luckily we have people like yourself who are digging deeper and helping people communicate, active listen. We're taught not to talk about politics. We're not talking about weight. We can't talk about religion. And because you don't want to get into an argument or hurt somebody's feelings, and it's created a society or a new generation of people who can't communicate, and they're easily offended. And it's not about so much trying to offend. It's more we want to have not sympathy but empathy. You know,
Yes.
you want to seek to understand when you ask your questions, not to judge. And lots of folks are like, oh, they're judging me. It's like, no, dude, I'm just trying to see where you're coming from.
Yes.
There's many sides to the story. So great topic.
The other thing that needs to be put out there is understanding when there's an imbalance between somebody who grew up receiving compliments and those that didn't. The ones that grew up in a non-complimenting household will also find it very alien to give compliments.
And along those lines, everyone has their own version of hell that they're living in.
Yes.
And we don't know what they're going through, So, I mean, you just got to try to love everybody the best you can.
And there's also understanding what kind of compliment there is. But
Right on.
God bless my grandmother, that picture right up there. I know, could do no wrong. If I brought her a glass of water, it was the best water she's ever had. Oh my gosh, I've never had such. Where did you get this amazing water? From your sink tap, Grandma. It's the best water ever. And you learn to take that with in stride. You're like, okay, Graham, I love you too. But then there's also the actual earned, heartfelt compliments that for the people that were raised in a household that didn't compliment, it can be really hard for them to even accept it and hold on to it. You'll see a lot of them that will, I call it a tennis volley. Oh, your hair looks great. Oh, I love your hair too. Those shoes are awesome. I love your shoes too. You've got such a great dog. You don't have a dog, but if you did, it would be awesome too. Lenora, you've had your hand up. Thanks for your patience.
I'm laughing at the volley because of many reasons. Sheesh. Pick out people, why don't you?
That was not.
I'm totally joking.
That was not at you.
When Mike was talking, I know. It's just hilarious because people will tell me that, and it's bleh. Moving on. Mike had mentioned about, with saying certain things, and I was going to say to Mike, I find that it very much depends on somebody's tone, their tone. I love the quote by, want to say it's Maya Angelou, and she says, people may forget what you said, but they will never forget how you made them feel, which is why I truly think it is so important about tone. And when you're wanting to talk about something that's very sensitive, to really know, there's an art to communication. There's an art to talking about sensitive topics, and there's an art to framing them, and going into that conversation really carries the most important thing over your words is the tone, in my personal opinion, when you're going into those really difficult conversations. And right before you had said, that compliments are becoming less, and I wrote, do you think they're becoming less and/or are people having more difficulty hearing or receiving them? Which then is just comical as it rolls into the volley of what you were talking about. So,
and to piggyback off the tone, I've had to point out to a number of people, I mean, like a sad number of people, there are many, many, many ways of saying hello. Just the word hello. There's, oh, hello. There's, hello. There's, hello. There's, hello. And a lot of people don't even catch on to that concept. Just like RBF, resting female dog face. When you're walking around, you're just like, I don't understand it. I'm so nice. And nobody wants to say hi to me. I don't get it. People are just so mean around here. I don't know. Why don't you go in the bathroom and wash off that RBF? Just saying. And one more quick little story about, saw a little Instagram reel, and it seemed a little mean, but it makes the point quite well. A guy is standing waiting for a cup of coffee, and this little barista's like, and what can I get you? And he goes, why do you talk like that? She's like, what do you mean? He goes, exactly. Why do you talk like that? Well, that's just the way I talk. Yeah, well, it's very frickin' annoying. Why don't you learn how to talk differently? Because there's lots of different ways to talk. And this is just driving, it makes people just, ugh. She's like, you're very mean. He goes, somebody has to tell you. because obviously nobody has. You know what? I don't think I even want any coffee here. And as he's walking out, she goes, you know what? You are just an asshole. And he goes, there. That's what I'm talking about. You can say something without that annoying tone. And some people applauded. Sometimes somebody's got to be your friend the hard way and let you know there's room for improvement. And that puts us 2 minutes past the first hour, which means once again, we've hit 2/3 of the topics. It's up to you guys for whatever you want to. I don't want to say we can't answer any questions to Aha's epiphanies on the working for compliments, but if anybody wants to bring it in for a landing, yes, Michael.
One more thing along those lines, when you're communicating with yourself or others, and to tie in tone, I do sales, obviously, and I've had discussions with my wife, and I said, you can say anything you want as long as you're smiling. And she's like, you're an asshole. And I was like, she said, but I'm smiling.
Mm-hmm.
So, anyway.
And that's the fun part about when people are arguing with you and you're looking at them and smiling with an even tone. Like, wow, how sad. There must be a story there. Are you okay?
Yeah.
Mark.
Well, you can always find something, when you're out amongst the muggles, to compliment them on, the people just doing their job, hey, you're doing a really great job, getting those carriages from the, bringing them in. That's a, thing. I know you don't want to do it, but hey, you're doing a really great job. You can always find something to compliment, the people you encounter in the day. And, and they usually, you smile and they smile back and, you kind of made their day. So make them feel that importance.
Yes.
Compliment.
And that's, I know we're in your second hour, but that's why I've gotten so good at even flyby compliments, especially with women, with me being 6'4", obviously male, not hiding it, not trying to hide it. I am male. And some women, it's really hard to give them a compliment because they want to know what you meant by that. Hey, your hair looks great. Well, what was that supposed to mean? Your hair doesn't look terrible. It looks great. I mean, you did a great job with your hair, is kind of what I meant, but I could be wrong. I'm a man. I don't know. So I just like I call them drive-by compliments. And it's really fun when you've got like those, when you're in a place that has those mirrors up in the corner. If you can do a drive-by compliment that you really mean. I mean, don't make up stupid stuff. If they look terrible, don't. But if you can give them a really heartfelt, good compliment as you're walking by, and then just kind of keep your eye up on the mirror and watch them go. Whoa. And notice their demeanor as they walk the other direction. it doesn't cost anything to give people a compliment, especially if it's something that is true, honest. I mean, if her hair looks good, I don't know too many women who have put time into their hair to make it look good that hate hearing from a random guy that they pulled it off and their hair looks good. If they do, well then, as Freud would say, they got issues, but they're not yours. So, who's got question topic for hour number 2? Bueller. And for those that are watching the very first time, this is typically where I call it what was it? The chipmunks, the courteous chipmunks. No, after you. No, really, I insist. I don't want to take over the show.
I'll ask a question, I guess. So, when it comes to personal growth, obviously there are areas in our life where we could get better, and then there are areas where maybe we can learn to better leverage the parts that can't change, if that makes sense. So there's things we could change, and there are things that maybe we can't change the things, but we could change our approach to them or how we use them, that sort of thing. And I guess my question is, how do we
Lay down.
Determine when you think which thing belongs in which category, and how do you approach it, especially when you have the things that you can't change, to make sure that you can leverage them better? Or putting it in a more popular way, God give me the grace to change the things I can change and accept the things that I can't. How do you know which one's which?
Okay, second hour rules are in place. Those on the call get to answer first. If I've got something to add, then I will add after. So who's got an answer for her? Mark.
Well, again, I don't like that word change. I prefer evolve, okay, becoming more. And because people resist change. You can give them the best advice in the world, and they're going to resist it. Because they're afraid of this thing called change. The things, again, we arrive here a blank hard drive. So, like I said, everything is learned. And we can learn to evolve beyond our current selves. And when you look at things, as again, at this level, I can't evolve. The things that I don't like about myself. Well, again, you have to become bigger, become more, and what TJ said is, as you go up as you evolve, you're going to attract different things and different things, and the things maybe you don't like about yourself at that level, Holly, maybe when you're at this level, they become doable, they become, challenging, and, can just continue to grow and to evolve, and and then you have and the things that you want to manifest or in your life, they become doable. That's from the armchair.
Awesome.
So
Who else has an answer for Holly? Lenora.
Holly, can you repeat it? Because I apologize. I had to step away for a moment.
I can't remember the exact quote from like I think it's AA or something. That's the God grant me the something the ability to change the things I can change, the serenity to accept the
Oh,
things I
yeah,
can't
yeah,
change,
yeah.
the
Oh,
ability, the wisdom to know the
Serenity
difference.
prayer.
Yeah, and the ability to know the difference. And I'm just
Mm-hmm.
kind of wondering, how do each of you determine the difference? And then also, when you have the things in either category, but especially the category you can't change, like how do you approach that? Although something Mark made me think too is there might be things I want to change, but maybe when I get to a higher level, I'll find those were actually good things in the first place, and wanting to change them was the mistake. But anyway, yes, that was where we were starting.
The things that I can't change, I aim for neutrality, that I can just feel neutral about it. I don't have to love it. I don't have to hate it. I just want to feel neutral about it. And for things that I do want to change, when I notice that fear voice or that inner, not even an inner critic, it's just like fear and worry coming up, I wrote down on a Post-it, what if, or what might it be like if this was different? What if this could be different? If something else could come in and I can have the freedom to be curious and playful about this, what might I want this to look like? One in particular is a shift in my career of sorts. And as I'm approaching it, rather than what am I going to do? Or like, oh my God, what's going to happen? I'm trying to think of it as what else might happen in the best case scenario. What would be really fun, or what's another possibility? And this thing came up today with something Bashar had said, that if your angels, your guardians, the universe sends you something and you don't use it, they're not going to send you more like that because you're not acting on the first thing that they gave you. And for me, I noticed that today, and I noticed that I was kind of stuck in something I was not doing. I know I popped on here earlier and I was talking about reels, and I noticed I really was dragging my feet about that. And I started to play with it differently today. And I'm like, okay, well, we're doing this. So we got to have a conversation about this, me and my younger part. So let's figure this stuff out. And as I started to shift my thinking about it, something else popped up today that was able to help me in that next aspect of it. So I thought that was really interesting. I'm hopeful that insight and experience has opened something for you in that little piece of
Absolutely,
question that you had.
always.
Oh, good.
Amazing.
All right. Awesome. All right, there you go.
Okay, we're ready for mine. I think people grossly overestimate how much work it's going to take to change, and vastly underestimate how much change we're capable of. It's amazing when I see people that finally get to a point where all they can do is change. Overnight, bam, monstrous change. It comes down to belief and why. Michael.
Right along with those lines, have you heard the story or the study on rats and how they did a study on drowning them? And if you put a rat in a pool and give it no way to get out, it lasts about 8 minutes before it drowns. And then they rescue it right before 8 minutes, take it out for about 30 seconds, and then put it back in the water. How long does it last?
36 hours or longer,
Yes.
just because it has the hope of being rescued. Again, so hope can take you past any limitation that you put on yourself.
And I'm glad you shared that, because when you take hope and give it vision, they'll last even longer. And a lot of people, especially the very analytical thinkers, get caught up in the minutia of, well, but I don't know step 12, 27, or 78. And yet the person that's just like them, that isn't thinking that way, but has a vision, and they can see up to step 5, have already made it to step 22 before the other person even took the first step. Well, and when the person, the analytical that needs to see all 700 steps to get started, watches that other person and then finds out that they didn't even know what step 6 was. What? How can they do that? One step at a time. There's a great book up there that a friend of mine sent me about the horse, what is it? The horse, the something.
The horse, the fox, the mole, and the boy.
Yes. Well, I can't see the trail. Can you see the step in front of you? Yeah? Take that. Because it's more than you took while you were standing there trying to figure out what you needed to be able to do. Lenora.
So Holly, I have a question for you. Do you remember when you and I first met? Remember?
I was supposed to say, I think I do. Were you I might be merging together more than one experience, but
you
I
might
definitely
be. We've never met in person, and we only met in 2020. It was in 2020 that you and I met. 2020 or 2021? Geez, 2021. Crap, I'm losing my mind. It was during COVID, and we were online, and you were such a phenomenal leader during the Identity by Design conference. And I have recordings, and for sure you were absolutely there, and you just completely lit up the room. And I don't know if you remember how not confident I was, how insecure I was, how small I was, how I was just a cluster of a mess of emotions and just all over the place. So in changing, and I think I've gotten bits and pieces of this, I apologize that I've been hopping back and forth during Triple T tonight. For me, I found the most benefit was quite literally working with coaches every single week. And I've definitely worked with TJ, and TJ has definitely seen me wipe my nose with my sleeve and laughs because it's true. And having somebody quite literally walk with you through really difficult things. But also what I found to be most helpful was it was very consistent. It was very consistent in facing all these things that I didn't want to face. And I found that to be completely pivotal to the point that now I go online and I tell people that I'm a coach, and I stand on a stage and I say, I've had an eating disorder and I've had all these issues. And I completely attribute that to every single week and every single journal entry and taking care of all the shit that I had inside of me to get me to a better place and a better place and a better place, to the point that you would have never known me 6 years ago. Never, because I would have never sat in a class. I would have never done any of this. I was behind the camera under Daisy Duck, and nobody would have known me. And it's something that I am adamant about helping people to do, because I know the benefit of sitting through those difficult things, but also having somebody walk with you, but also quite literally even exchange, whether it's finances or you're helping them, they're helping you. That has to be in place, because there are times where I've made exchanges with friends and the same accountability isn't there. It really has to have a different level of importance when you come to the table. If you're looking for those changes, especially if you're like, I'm stuck, I'm in analysis paralysis, and I don't know what to do. And I found that to be something that completely, thankfully, changed my life. So I hope that lands.
Oh, I'm just gonna jump in a response to that. Sorry, it looks so funny every time I start nodding. My avatar just looks like it's looking up the side. I think that's so funny. Anyway, I mean, I completely agree with everything you said about, facing stuff and working on stuff and coaches, but just kind of as an interesting aside, like, it's it's a perfect example of how when you're in your own head that you have a different experience than what the people around you see. Because, like, from my memory, all I remember thinking is, here's somebody who is taking to this like a duck to water, who's just so talented at it. And, and part of that might be too, that like when you are on the coaching side, like
Drowning duck.
you could see people's potential because you've seen so many people go through the process before, that it's like, oh, you made that tiny little mistake. Oh, well, everybody makes that tiny little mistake when they're learning this, So it's like, you don't realize how truly amazing you actually, even at that point, were, because you were not getting the viewpoint that I had the privilege of seeing. So I thought that was a very interesting way to see it.
And how many times did I ask you, do you want a coach or do you want a friend? Do you
Like,
want...
that could really go to any one of us.
Yeah. But I've a lot of times with my clients, I will ask them specifically, okay, I've got something to tell you, but do you want to hear it from a coach or do you want to hear it from your buddy? Do you want to hear what you need to hear? Or do you want me to foo-foo and I get that permission? And it's not so that I can be an a-hole. It's because I'm going to have to say something that is going to land pretty hard. And I still do it with respect and love and all the above, but sometimes you need to hear some things. Oh, we got hands up everywhere. Who wants to go first?
I would like to ask Lenora a question. And I'm sorry I came in late, so if this has already been covered, then I apologize. When you were going through your transformation and you were basically really discovering who your true authentic self, how much resistance did you have with the other people in your lives not wanting you to change and liking you the way you were, and were trying to self-sabotage you?
TJ's smiling because he's heard a lot about this. A lot, and there's a line that David Snyder would say that, things around you will change. So many things will change, and I would definitely agree with that. I wasn't prepared, because I couldn't really grasp it until I was on this side. My relationships with people have absolutely changed. Some have gotten significantly better. Some have become very, very distant. And the ones that have become distant have been out of my own need for protection and having boundaries, because there are people that could walk right through the door and just possibly tear through. They wouldn't tear me down at this point because I feel like that boundary has gotten a lot stronger, but had they walked through the door, I would have easily like burst into tears if they said the wrong thing and would have had to rebuild so many other things. But because I had separated that distance and I made those boundaries a lot stronger, so when they say stuff now, it hits, but it doesn't hit the way that it used to, if that makes any sense. I hope it does. I know you're on mute, Maurice.
Yeah, it does. I just think it's important for everybody to know that when you start this process, you really want to be committed, and you really want to have an end goal in mind, and not let anybody, because it's so easy for somebody to knock you off your path, but you have to be strong in yourself.
I would definitely agree with that. And I think even the things that come up, for example, there were some people that were thrilled about my TEDx, and there were other people that were not so thrilled about my TEDx. And having to have the conversations that I had, I was stronger than what I would have ever been. And then afterwards, there is still that aftermath of what my younger self would feel like. Like, how could they say that? How could they do that? But that's okay, because I don't need to. When I'm in those conversations, I need a certain version to show up to be able to hold that frame, to be able to show up the way that I want to show up. And my intention every single time is I am not going to walk away apologizing. I will not apologize. Anything that will come out of my mouth, I will really focus on what I'm saying, how I'm saying it. I will slow my speech down. I will repeat very carefully. I will, even if I'm on the phone and I need to remember stuff, I will take notes. I know it sounds a little crazy, but there are some people that I need to do this with. And as long as this version shows up, great. And if another version of myself has a meltdown afterwards, totally fine. Totally fine. Because there's something there that still needs to be worked on. There's something still that needs to be cared for. And I'm no problem. I can handle that. That is great. What I don't want for me very specifically is I don't want that version, that younger part, coming out in the conversation, because that younger part is going to feel like she has to apologize. And I don't do that anymore. So I do my best to be very aware when I'm in those conversations, and I know when I'm going into them, and I know I have the armor on, and I know I have the words, and I will be okay in those conversations.
Awesome. I just want to make a plug for you guys that if anybody else wants that for themselves, reach out to TJ, reach out to Holly, reach out to Lenora, or anybody else on the call, and you can have that for yourself very easily.
Thanks, brother.
Very much so, Mo.
Okay, guys. I don't know who raised first, but
Yeah. Hey, TJ.
yeah.
There we go. When you brought up you want a coach or a friend, that also goes hand in hand with the whole conversation, because it's going to be, what type of coach do you want? And what is your definition of coach? What is your definition of a friend? How are they going to respond or react and give you the advice or the information that you're trying to parlay? Does that make sense?
Yep. Thank you. Mark.
Is this on?
Yep.
I heard Holly, like you said, Lenora gave her a great compliment. How she was just such a leader, and she just seemed to be, shining so bright. And Holly kind of deflected that compliment. She didn't just accept it and say thank you, but she reflected it back and said, I could see something in Lenora, even back then. It's also about receiving compliments and acknowledging them. That was a very nice compliment that Lenora gave Holly. You don't have to deflect compliments. You just have to, accept them as heartfelt. The other thing I wanted to touch on was I've seen didn't know Lenora, before all this started, but to get quasi-religious, I see the after effects of all the work she's done, and it's more about a transfiguration into something pure, and that's why I think she shines so brightly. And I think you had a lot to do with helping her, coaching her, TJ, and reflects on you, what a great coach you are. But when I see Lenora, and I didn't know her before, but how she described herself, it was a transfiguration here, and it's great to see.
100% agreement on that. Good feels everywhere for everybody. Another reason why I absolutely adore this tribe.
Thank you so much for that, Mark.
And I'm going to throw in real quick, as long as compliments are coming up here, I actually had to take a class. I think it's that piece of paper on my wall, that we actually went through exercises about compliments, learning how to accept compliments, and not only learning how to accept them graciously, but to avoid the urge to give back without looking pompous or like, oh well, thank you, and walk away. But in that class, in those exercises, you got to see the fight in the faces of the volleyers, of the people that there were a couple of different classifications. The volley that we talked about, but also the ones that would take and capture it and throw it away. That's a beautiful shirt. Oh, this old thing? That's nothing. Literally, you hand them a present and they're like, and throw it away. And I've had to teach that to a number of my clients as well. And I'll call them out to give them a compliment, and they're like, it's nothing. I'm like, did you really just take that present and throw it on the floor? Because they get so conditioned from upbringing and programs put on their hard drive that they don't really know what to do with compliments. It's not on the parents, because when you start digging down, it could be generational. Brought up in the family, just learning how to accept compliments graciously and I guess eloquently is an art form. I'm still working on it. There are times people give me a compliment and I find myself instantly searching for something to compliment them back on, because I've gotten much better that compliments for me, if you get a compliment from me, I truly mean it. I don't just flippantly say something to try and give it back. But it's a really good skill set to have, to be able to give people compliments. And then when people give you compliments, being able to accept them, receive them without having to give them back. And I will admit, there have been times where I've seen the people that fish for compliments because they're kind of having a bad day or something. And, so how are the bars? Good. And you can see them go, oh. Actually, no, beyond good. They've got a nice texture to them. They've got the perfect balance. And then you can see them and go, oh, okay. I just needed that little, can I reel in that compliment? Do you like my shirt? Yeah, it's okay. I just bought it today. Can I get a compliment out of that one? And so the more you get in tune with compliments and people, the more you'll understand that was also part of topic number 2 today, was working for compliments, is investing the time to really understand compliments, how to receive them, how to give them, but also how to recognize people that will volley, deflect, fish for them, because it's part of human nature. And the more you can understand them, the easier it is to deal with those kind of people. Some people get offended if you just accept a compliment and you don't volley one back, especially the fishermen. I'm sorry, politically correct, the fisher people, the fisher, whatever. But you'll see them. They'll give you a compliment and you go, thanks, I appreciate that. And they're like, that's a very nice shirt. Well, thank you, I appreciate that. And they're like, well, if you wanted a compliment on your shirt, why didn't you just ask me what I thought about your shirt? Well, that would be too forward. Or else they'll turn and go away and go, he didn't like my shirt. Well, how do you know? Well, I complimented his and he didn't say anything. So, there, you got more of the second topic.
I had a client in the institution. His name was Sam. And Sam had mastered the thank you. When I would give him a compliment, he would look at me and go, and I can't even imitate the tonality. I mean, he just mastered it. It was said with total love. And he was like, thank you. And that's not, and that was all you needed, was the thank you from Sam.
Yes.
It was, he had mastered that thank you to the point where you got everything you needed from that. It was just said with pure love, like I said, these folks in the end. But Sam was, he had just got that one thing right, and I always remembered his thank yous. You didn't need anything else.
And what an amazing skill set to have. In just 2 words, to be able to have you feel it that way from a compliment. Mike?
This ties in a little bit, but it's a joke. And there was a husband and wife team walking through the airport in Sky Harbor in Phoenix. And she's probably not the sharpest couple, but she's walking through and she sees a couple wearing a jacket, big fur coat. And she looks to her husband and says, "Where do you think they're from?" "I don't know, go ask." And so she walks over there and she says, "Where are y'all from?" And they said, "Saskatoon, Saskatchewan." And she smiled and nodded and walked back to her husband and he says, "Well, where are they from?" "I don't know, they don't speak English." And so people, along with this whole conversation we've had, hear from their experience and their education.
Exactly. And I'm glad you brought that up as soon as you did. It reminded me of when I was working at the apartment complex in San Diego. And I'd only been there a couple of months, so I'm fresh out of Minnesota then, And so we're in the dreads of winter. I mean, it's like 62 degrees, maybe down to 58 during the day. And the locals, you can tell, they're dressed like Nanook of the North, and even the dogs have a sweater on. And I looked out by the pool, and there's a couple. He's in a Speedo, and she's in a 2-piece bikini, enjoying the sun. So I walked out there and I said, "Hey, good to see you here. Out of curiosity, where are you guys from?" And he goes, "Yeah, we're from the Switzerland." And I said, "Yeah, I knew you weren't from around here." And he goes, "Oh, why do we stand out so much?" And I said, "Because it's nice and warm, nice sunny day, isn't it?" He goes, "Oh, it's a beautiful day then." "Yeah." I said, "Yeah, did you notice the locals are dressed like it's 40 below?" He goes, "Yeah, I thought that was a little strange then." I said, "Yeah, I'm from Minnesota. It's a nice, beautiful day. That's why I'm in shorts. I've been in shorts all year, and the locals think I'm a little off my rocker." And so sometimes you have to understand that they may look crazy, but you got to know where they come from. I had another one where I was going through, I was DJing, 2 a.m. I'm hungry. What's the only place that's open at 2 a.m? Taco Hell. It's in the worst dreads of winter in Minnesota. It's about 10, 15 below without the wind chill, and it's windy. So it's about 35 below wind chill. And so I pull up to the drive-through because the walk-in part is shut down. And the gentleman that was on the speaker had a distinct accent. And so when I got up to the window, here is a tall, skinny black guy. And I'm not racist, but he literally was midnight black. And I said, "Great accent, where are you from?" He goes, "I'm from South Africa." I said, "What are you doing here?" "I'm going to college." I said, "How you liking the winter?" "This sucks." I've never been so cold. I've never been so cold. I am going home. This is crazy. I don't know how you live here. I'm like, dude, I get it. He was dressed in a parka with the one out here, but opening up that window to try and give me my food before it turned to ice. And he's standing there in the window telling me how nuts we are. And it struck me. I'm like, dude, I am so sorry. You've probably never felt temperatures below 50 degrees. And here you are 100 degrees colder than what you've ever felt in your life. I don't blame you. I would go home too. You'll have stories for the rest of your life. You will be able to tell your grandchildren, Minnesota is barren wasteland. Don't ever go up there in the wintertime. You will die. But then we've got people on the call like our wonderful, beautiful friend Fran, who is surviving in Australia, where everything seems to, you gotta be tough down there.
It can get a bit warm here.
Well, yeah, not only that, don't you guys have like 80% of all of the most dangerous things on the whole planet?
No, they're just different dangerous things. You just learn how to deal with different dangerous things. Like, you have bears and wolves and mountain cats, and we have redback spiders and snakes.
Yeah.
Just different.
That's why if I wasn't married oh yeah, Lenora, if you heard about some of the spiders they have down there, but yeah, our good buddy Phil keeps trying to talk me into moving to Aussie, and I'm like, I'm not trained enough to live in Australia. I would need to have a local with me all the time, because around here, now in Texas, we've got our collection of things. I mean, we've got scorpions, we've got black widows, we've got brown recluse, we've got a couple of dangerous snakes, rattlesnakes and stuff like that. But the most I've ever seen is a pretty sizable black widow and a somewhat sizable scorpion. That's it.
You just get to know what the locals don't do, and then you'll be okay.
That's why I say,
Don't stick your fingers up under a ridge in a fence, or you'll get bitten, probably. But then again, black widows and redback spiders are almost identical. They're the same genus. So, where's the difference? You just learn what the locals don't do.
yes, that's why I would have to hang out with somebody like you, and I would just be like, okay, keep me alive. Tell me what to do. Show me where the beer is. Which also explains why you guys can drink. I tried drinking with a couple of Aussies while I was there. I was smart enough to make sure that it was in the hotel that I had a room in, because apparently I was done about a third of the way through their run, and then I just kind of floated up to my room and found that the floors in the hotel were very uneven that time of night. I don't understand who, the doorways were like this and the floor was like this, but I love y'all. So we got 9 minis. Who's got something for us?
Look, I'll jump in. May
Yes.
as well throw myself under the bus as usual. Just it's interesting to see again, to remind yourself what it's like to be one of your clients. I had a friend of mine die just a few days ago, a longtime friend, and it's brought everything up again. And when we're dealing with trauma, it's good to see it from the other side too, and remember what the other person is going through. And at least, we've got the whys and the hows and the what to do about it, and they haven't. So, getting back to really understanding your client as well, I think it can be useful.
Exactly. I'm going to jump in real quick. 2 things that I tell clients who have lost somebody. A couple of different things, but the 2 main things. A, allow yourself to grieve. It's energy inside. It's a combination of love and loss. Putting those 2 together, they're pretty strong energies. But then I also like to ask them, if you had the chance to communicate with your friend, how much time would they tell you that you need to grieve for them? Sometimes people can feel obligated to grieve a little longer than they need to. And I find it interesting when I ask them that and they'd be like, well, they'd want me to stop right now. I'm like, okay. Then the 2 of you can work that out. And the other thing is, there will always be a flashback, especially when you care about them. Little things. Just Sunday, I was working in my shop, jamming out like I do, and a song came on. It reminded me of my papa, and I allowed myself to feel that for a while, for a couple of minutes, because you know what? It reminded me how much Papa meant to me. So he's still here. He's still here. And because he's my Papa, he's still here. You guys see part of him in me. So, and I've got so much stuff up and around here because they help make me who I am, even if it's just a little ingredient. So the sorrow that I saw in your face while you said that makes me respect the person that you lost, because somewhere in you is an ingredient from them that helped make you who you are, and we adore the bits and pieces out of you. You're welcome. Lenora.
Hi, sweet Fran. Of the many wonderful things that we get to do and we've learned how to do, I don't know if you've had somebody walk with you in a conversation with them. And TJ was the one that had shown me this, and I love that he shared to grieve with them, to grieve about them. But I also have found myself a number of times sitting down. Very specifically, my godmother passed away almost 2 summers ago now. And when I think of her, I start talking to her like, oh God, I miss you. I miss you so much. And I will sit down and have a full conversation with her. Whether people think I'm crazy, whether I've been known to call myself crazy, I will have a whole conversation with her. And whether I write it out or I converse it or I sit there with her and I literally pass a ball of light back and forth, or I sit there and I hold her hand and we talk about it, like why she left, whatever is coming up. I have found so much peace and so much speechless resolve in being able to do that. So if you feel called to do that, let yourself go there.
Thank you, Lenora. Thank you, everybody. And, now I feel a bit like a fraud because, yes, I do mourn my friend, but it was also a blessed release that when she left, it was, she went through some real tough stuff. But being totally selfish, I'm surprised at how much it's shaken up my internal stuff that I've been carrying forever, and how I think it's making me reassess everything in my life. And I just feel all shook up, and all the things that have sort of had a little skin or a plaster put over them, they're all erupted again. And it's just going to take some time. And at least I've got the awareness of what the heck's going on, so I can do something about it. And I have booked myself a session. So hopefully it will be a really positive experience and an opportunity to get rid of some of that stuff I've been carrying around and, use that as a blessing of my lovely friend that I miss. Thank you.
And here's a little something for you, Fran. You're not the same person you were the last time you dealt with them. All of this, all of the knowledge, all the things that you've done to help other people, now you can decide what's schmutz and what's lessons. We can bury stuff as deep as we think we can and as much as we want to. But if we left it with the schmutz will come up. So you just go, you know what? It's time to clean house. What is one of the number one major life-changing events for humans? Near-death experience. And it doesn't have to be your own. Sometimes you can lose somebody else and just go, what am I doing with my life? What the what? You know what? It's that little reminder that we think we know how much time we have left until we find somebody who found out. I'm going to put one more story in here, even though we're at the top of the hour. When the last time I saw my father alive was in a hospice room, and my sister refused to come in. She was out in the hallway crying. So finally, I just went out and I said, "What are you crying about?" Of course, she looks at me like, For what? For real? I said, "No, really, what are you crying about?" "What did you?" And I said, "Yeah, you're crying because you think you know exactly how much time Papa doesn't have left. So, out of curiosity, when are you going to start crying for me?" And she's like, what? I said, when are you going to start crying for me? Because when I leave here, I'm going to get in a car and I'm going to drive down a road where people crash cars and die. And then I'm going to drive to an airport and get on a plane that you refuse to fly in planes because planes crash, people die. And if the pilot makes it all the way past the site of the crash and lands safely in San Diego, I'm going to get on busy freeways and I'm going to drive a car where people crash and die. And because I haven't been able to ride my motorcycle in about 2 weeks, as soon as possible, I'm going to set my butt on my motorcycle and I'm going to ride on the freeways in San Diego where people crash and die. I could possibly be dead before Papa. When are you going to start crying for me? And she just looked at me and I said, it's because you think I've got more time than Papa does. He's still in there. Go in there, don't look at the body. Spend time with the spirit. Like Lenora said, I still get to talk to him. He answers me differently. He'll come in through a song or a picture, or a truck will drive by and I'll hear the Jake brake. I just don't get to talk to him the way I used to. And so for all you guys, to spend your time, because we think we've got plenty left, even though we know we don't, for you to spend it here on this platform, every week I'm going to say, I don't have the vocabulary to thank you the way I really want to. Because I haven't figured out how to reproduce time, because I'd give it back to you as I'd give you more so we could spend more time together. So take this precious lesson that Fran shared with us as a reminder. Go out into the world. Live the best you can. Put a brick on the flipping throttle and hang on and scream like a 5-year-old. Have as much fun as you can. Learn as much as you can. Help as many people as possible. Give out as many compliments as you can. Make yourself your top priority. Be your best friend. You are with yourself your entire life. The past happened, but don't carry it around to the future. Only grab the lessons. Forget the schmutz. And if you're having challenges with that, there's a lot of people here that would love to help you with it. We are all blessed to be that, as Dr. David Snyder calls us, that special kind of stupid. Because we just want to help people. Anytime, anywhere, for any reason.
And just to put a lid on that one, being the special kind of stupid people that we are, sometimes the best way to help ourselves when we're really down and squashed is to help somebody else.
Yes. And to reach out to some of us other special people, because you can. And we just will help you as much as we possibly can. Maybe you a little more, because we adore the bits and pieces and love you to levels that most people don't understand. So you're stuck with us. For the rest of y'all, thanks for sticking around. If you're watching this video on a recording, thanks for getting all the way to the bottom, to the end, and all the stuff. Please do all of the YouTube, Facebook, all that stuff. Friends, subscribe, share it with other people. There's somebody out there that needs to hear what we just talked about. Until then, love you all and hope to see your smiling faces back here in 7.
Thanks, TJ.
Good night, all.
Good night.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Great episode, guys. Thank you, TJ.